Guys, this is Pedro here, and today I'm back with another stream, not a preview stream, but we're just going to be, talking about, the state of the Washington football team right now, recapping the game against the Panthers, and talking about expectations for the second half of the season, and maybe even talk a little bit about the draft class so far, how we feel about each of the players that Washington has drafted, and I will be joined by Nati from DMV Sports Zone. Should be coming in a little bit, probably around 10 minutes, because he is, streaming right now with Chris Baker. So make sure you guys go ahead and check that out after we're done with the stream. But appreciate everyone for coming through. What is up? Let's see. KON Rockstar, James Panda, Brian Harding, Riker, and Rashad. Appreciate everyone for coming through. And hey, it feels good to get 2 wins in a row. How are you guys doing today? And let's see. Jeremy, appreciate the $5 donation, man. Really, really helps out the channel a ton. And yeah, appreciate that. So let's go ahead and get started with, we'll wait a little bit for Nati to get in here, but let's talk about the win against the Panthers. What a big win for the Washington football team. I mean, you improved to 4-6 on the year, and you're right into the playoff, hunt. They're a game out, but they have a much easier schedule in the second half of the season. I mean, they play the Seahawks on Monday night, and the Seahawks are struggling a little bit. They are definitely struggling a little bit. They're 3-7 right now, and I mean, I don't know. I think we can definitely beat them, and then we play the Raiders, who we all know they're a first half of the season team, not a second half team. They're starting to unwind right now, so that's a winnable game. But the real thing is, we just have to take care of things in the division. Jeremy says, "What win was bigger, Bucks or Carolina?" In my opinion, it was the Bucks win because that's what started all of this, and hopefully, we'll get another win here, and that'll just be the domino effect. Us winning in the, against the Bucks was just a huge, huge win for us coming off the bye. I mean, the season I thought it was over pretty much after the Broncos game, and really the only way that the season would still be alive would be if they did beat the Bucks, and they ended up doing that. So I think that the win against the Bucks was what was a bigger win than against Carolina. Sam, I will be having Juan on, I think on Saturday or I don't know, Saturday, yeah, probably Saturday to preview the game. This is just more of a recap stream, and today worked better for Nati. So I will be still doing a stream with Juan, maybe even Rio later on. But I think the bigger win was the Bucks game. The Carolina game, though, I think it's of course a very, very big win just because it proves that that game against the Bucks wasn't a fluke. They were able to do the same things they did in that game in this game, run the ball, have long drives, win, time of possession. So I think both wins were important, but the win against the Bucks, in my opinion, was more important. I want to hear what you guys have to say. Let's see. Panthers game shows we can be consistent, and the D is getting better. I think honestly, for me, I after the Broncos game, I said the defense was turning a corner. I was feeling good about the defense after the Broncos game, and the after the Bucks game that even proved my point even more. And yeah, like you said, the Panther game proved it even more as well. Jacob says prediction for the Seahawks game. I mean, I don't have a prediction yet, but I do have a good feeling about this game. I think we can win. It's Monday night, and I believe that Russell Wilson's record on Monday Night Football is really, really good. But the way we've been playing, we can run on the Seahawks, and we just have to continue to do that. I want Gibson to have 15, as long as he holds on to the football. I want Gibson to have the ball, carry the ball 15 plus times in this game. I mean, that's what we need to do. We need to do that. Get Patterson 5+ carries, give McKissick 5+ carries. Because I mean, people are sleeping on McKissick. McKissick was really good in that game against the Panthers. I mean, he had 7 carries for 40 something yards, 46, 47 yards. He was really clutch for us. He is an effective runner, especially behind this offensive line. I think our running backs need to combine for 20, probably 30 carries, 25 to 30 carries at least every week. And if we can do that, especially against teams that we don't need to score 30 plus points to win, I think we will continue to win these games. Super Chef, appreciate the $2 donation. Says, I'm just tired of starting off so slow. Yeah, I agree, and that's just a theme I get. Or I mean, I don't know if you're talking about starting the season off slow, or games, or both, but I agree with both things. I mean, last year we started off the season slow, which really was unfortunate. This year, as I mean, we won the first game, or no, sorry, we lost the first game, but then won the second game against the Giants. But really started off slow. Okay, yeah, you're talking about the season, yeah, and it's just unfortunate. We did get lucky against the Giants and the Falcons, but I mean, there was so many games that, man, we looking back, like, we definitely should have won those games. And this team today, the way they're playing, wins against the Broncos, wins against the Saints, and maybe wins one of the two against the Chiefs and the Packers. I mean, they should have at least one more, probably two more wins. That Broncos game just really disappointing, and same thing with that Saints game. And I mean, Rivera last year and this year, I mean, they started off the season slow, and yeah, I don't know what the solution to that is. I mean, the first season you could give the excuse, new head coach, COVID, season where you don't really have, you had no practice. But this year, I don't think there's much excuse. And yeah, it's unfortunate. Rivera teams are a second half team, but it would be nice if they could start off the season better than they do. And yeah, also, I mean, you said the season, but I also think games in general, they need to start off better. I mean, the defense, almost every single game is giving up a touchdown on the first drive. The defense played better this game, but that can't happen. Like, we cannot be doing that every single first drive, allowing them to score a first drive touchdown that kills the momentum. And I mean, yeah, I think that we really need to do a better job with that offensively as well. But, I'm feeling really, really good about the team right now, just because the offense is starting to find that identity. Because I was liking what Scott Turner, was doing this, first half of the season. Just the only thing is they didn't really have an identity, but now they're starting to run the ball, play smash mouth football, and you see the identity that they have, and it's starting to work, especially in these games that you don't need to have, to score 35 plus points to win. Appreciate the donation, Super Chef. Like, the next couple games we play, I mean, we don't need to score 30 plus points against the Seahawks. The Seahawks don't have a great offense. They don't have a good running game. They don't have that great of an offensive line. Russell Wilson is still great, but he can't do it all. So, I'm not too scared of them. Obviously, would not be surprised if we lost the game. Of course, I wouldn't. But I feel good about this game. If And we're starting to get healthy too. That's the thing. I mean, Logan Thomas, Curtis Samuel, these guys could be coming back soon. Curtis Samuel, who knows? I'm still a little bit suspicious and pessimistic about it, but the signs are starting to get a little bit encouraging. And I feel like Curtis Samuel and Logan Thomas both will be back, if not this week, the week after that. And I think that'll take the offense to a whole nother level. I want to hear from you guys. I don't ask Nati when he comes in here. Who was your besides Taylor Heineke? Who was your MVP of the game against the Carolina Panthers? Go ahead and put that in the chat, or give me a couple players that you thought really played well. I'll give one on offense. Terry McLaurin was great in this game. Again, 5 catches, 103 yards, and a touchdown. And really, the only he had one where he kinda slowed down on it, coulda maybe, he coulda, maybe caught the ball there, but just really, really unfortunate that he couldn't get that down. But then, the only other thing that was, he coulda had another touchdown if Taylor Heineke hits him, in stride in the end zone. But I thought Terry played great. Cameron Curl that's another one. I think he was probably the defensive MVP, him or Jonathan Allen, but Cameron Curl doing a really, really good job covering Christian McCaffrey. And, he is turning, into one of the better strong safeties in the league. He's not there yet, but he is getting there. He is getting there, and it's criminal. That's part of the reason, Super Chef, they started off slow, is because they didn't have him out there. In the Chargers game, he played less than 50% of the snaps, which that's just criminal. That's criminal. You cannot have one of your best defensive players not on the field for over 50% of the snaps. And I feel like a lot of the adjustments that they've made have helped the defense turn around. I think a little bit too late moving Landon Collins to, more of a linebacker position. I think that's a little bit too late moving Cameron Curl back to strong safety, but still, at least they did it. And, we're still, like I said, starting to get healthy. Sam Cosmi, will see if he comes back with that hip injury that he suffered in the game. Curtis Samuel, Logan Thomas, maybe Montez Sweat in a couple weeks. I think he can come back after the Raiders game. He should be back there. And then we get, Shaka Tony, who's not a big impact guy, but he's needed with, the injury to Montez Sweat and Chase Young. And that's one thing though that I think they should have addressed in the offseason is sign a veteran edge rusher. And I think they still should do it. I think Adrian Claiborne is available, Olivier Vernon is available, and it's like Melvin Ingram is a perfect example. The Steelers didn't necessarily need him, but they signed him in the offseason to a cheap deal. He was playing for them, played okay, wasn't getting enough playing time. They traded him at the trade deadline for like a 6th-round pick. That's what you do. No one signed him in the off season. You go ahead and do that. You get an asset, and I mean that's what they should have done. Because if everyone was healthy and they didn't need him, okay, maybe you can trade him. But if not, you have a good depth player like someone like Melvin Ingram who can come in, and if Chase Young and Montez Sweat are out, they can, be effective for you. So I still think they should go ahead and try to sign a veteran, edge rusher, Olivier Vernon, Adrian Claiborne. There's some other guys as well, but that's something I think they mismanaged in the offseason. I want to hear what you guys think about that. And one of the most underrated actually at this point, I don't think it's underrated, but one of the best unit probably on this team is the offensive line, and huge shout out to John Matsko for really helping develop this unit. I mean, this unit is one. I think they're the first ranked unit in terms of run block win rate on ESPN stats, and fourth in pass block win rate. They've just been really good this year, and with a bunch of injuries. I mean, their starting center is out for the season. Brandon Sheriff was out for some games. Sam Cosmi was out, and they're still producing at a high level, really helping out the running game. And the sack numbers are a little bit misleading as well. I think that I just Heineke holds on to the ball a little bit too much at times. He is super good at evading pressure and, kind of, helping the offensive line sometimes avoid sacks, but then he holds on to it a little bit too long and isn't able to, avoid the sack or throw it away. Or if he does throw it away, he does get hit. So just that's something he needs to work on, but it's super, super fixable. All he has to do is throw it away because he has the mobility. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, just in terms of his ability to, at least initially avoid the pressure and get outside the pocket. I also think he needs to scramble a little bit more. I think he's, been doing a good job at that as well. So let's hope he can continue to do that. Another guy I thought had a good game was Jonathan Allen. He looked, stat sheet doesn't show it, but he was really, really good in this game. So I want a question for you guys in the chat. What do you guys think is the, most underwhelming rookie that we drafted this year? Could be first round, could be 7th round. And what's the most pleasant surprise for you guys? So for me, most underwhelming, I'm gonna say De'Ami Brown for me. Jamin Davis hasn't been great, but he's done okay things, and he's been okay for us. But he's been below average, but we knew he was gonna be a project, and it was gonna take some time. It was gonna take some time for him to properly develop. But De'Ami Brown, a lot of people thought he was gonna have a big year this year for rookie at least, and he was looking good in training camp. Just hasn't done anything. I mean, I put out a tweet today, and let me go ahead and pull it up. I'm not gonna put it on the screen, but Dax Milne this year has 7 catches for 71 yards. And De'Ami Brown has 8 catches for 81 yards. That already is kind of insane that a, seventh round pick has this, basically the same as a third round pick. But Dax Milne has played 23% of the offensive snaps, and De'Ami Brown has played 48% of the offensive snaps. So De'Ami Brown has been getting outplayed, easily outplayed by Dax Milne, by Adam Humphries, by DeAndre Carter. I know, some of it is due to injury, but he needs to get better, man. He really, really does. And I think it's kind of like almost, I don't know, it might be a little bit too early, but, you know, I think this season might already be a lost season for him, like kind of like AGG last year, because I just don't know what guys is he gonna, overtake in the lineup? Obviously not Terry. At this point, I don't think, there's any way he can go over DeAndre Carter. Like those two are locks. And if Curtis Samuel comes back, that's the same thing for him. He's gonna get less and less snaps than him. And I mean, Dax Milne is already over him, and Dax Milne continues to, improve. He's been improving the last few weeks, and even Adam Humphries. So like he's what Terry, DeAndre Carter, Curtis Samuel, Adam Humphries, and De'Ami Brown. Like he's like the sixth receiver on the depth chart right now, probably. So I just don't think that we're gonna see much production out of De'Ami Brown, at least in the next few weeks, unless there's an injury. Hopefully, no injuries. Let's hope there's no more injuries. But De'Ami Brown, I think, has been the most disappointing rookie for us, and I don't know if it's gonna change much. I think early on he was a little bit better. He had a couple, Heineke had a little bit of some missed opportunities for De'Ami Brown early on, especially in that Bills game, but yeah, it is what it is. What's up, Anonymous? What's up, Roger Smith? Appreciate you coming through. I want to hear from you, Roger. How are you feeling? I know you're not a really big Scott Turner guy, but how are you feeling about Scott Turner in the last couple weeks? Have you liked his game plan, or do you think it's more a product of QB play? So, yeah, De'Ami Brown, my most disappointing guy. I would say my most pleasant surprise has been Sam Cosmi. Sam Cosmi has been a beast this year for us. Unfortunate that he is injured right now, and he got injured earlier. But when he was playing, he was probably one of the best tackles. He was one of the best tackles in, or best rookie tackles this year. So, he's been a pleasant surprise. Some other guys have been solid. Dax Milne, like I said, he's been pretty good. Benjamin St. Juice has been good as well. He's been a pleasant surprise. John Bates has really been, improving over the last few weeks, especially with Logan Thomas and Ricky Seals Jones out. I think, you know, I really think that once Logan Thomas and Ricky Seals Jones do come back, I think they should just play John Bates as a number two because he is a better blocker than Ricky Seals Jones. And, realistically, I don't think Ricky Seals Jones will be here next year. Maybe he will be, but, John Bates will be your number two. So you might as well give him the snaps and let him develop as your number two. So once Ricky Seals Jones is back, that's what I would do. Let John Bates continue to get the work. Continue to get the work. He has 59 receiving yards this year, but a lot of those have come in the last few weeks. Johnny says De'Ami was wide open for a touchdown this week. I didn't see that, and again, I missed the last quarter. I did watch some of the film back, but yeah, I'll have to go back and see that. Um, Tyler says maybe Terry can help Brown get better this offseason. Let's hope. Let's hope. He's still young. Like he's a pretty. I think he's 21, maybe 22. So he still has time to develop. But I mean, they still might have to look for another receiver this offseason. I love Terry, and I think Curtis will be fine once he gets back. So you have two right there, and then Dax Milne. He's never going to be a star in this league, but I think he can be an average to above average slot receiver. Like I think he can next year if he's starting, in a full-time role, I think he can get like 400, 500, plus yards next year. Nothing crazy, but, solid numbers for a slot receiver. I think he can do that. DeAndre Carter is a, free agent after this year, but I also think that, he can be a contributor for us too. And yeah, Cam Sims had a good game last week. He's been getting more work than De'Ami Brown as well. So De'Ami Brown right now might be the seventh guy on the depth chart. I don't know. We'll see. I need to see a couple more weeks out of this offense coming out the bye, but they're not really using him much on offense, besides some motion. But yeah, Reggie Reg, what's up? Appreciate you coming through. Carter, yeah, Carter definitely has potential. I mean, he has 3 touchdowns, receiving touchdowns on the year. He has one kick return touchdown as well. I mean, he's been good. And I would, even if it's just based off of his special teams, I would bring him back next year. I would bring him back, but also adding in his return game as well. He's been good, or not his return game, his receiving game as well. He's been good. He has 219 receiving yards for 3 touchdowns, but a lot of that has been in the last, 4 or 5 weeks. Early on in the season, he was a non-factor because they didn't really use him much, and they started using him for a little bit, and then they stopped, and they've come back to it the last few weeks. Let's see. Roger Smith says Schweitzer center makes our O line a dominant run blocking group. We need to expand on that more. Smash Mouth. Yeah, I totally agree with that, Roger. And I think that with this offensive line, the way it's been playing, and the way Scott Turner has been using Gibson, and the way Gibson looks, he looks healthy. He looks almost 100%. Use this offensive line to your advantage and just keep running the rock these next few weeks as long as Gibson's healthy. I really, really agree with that. One other thing I want to talk about. I'm really, really liking this offensive line for next year, and it's going to be a cheap unit. Here's what you do: left tackle, Charlie, bring him back. He's going to want a little bit more than 5 mil. You pay him whatever it is, 7.5. You can pay him a little bit more. He had a solid year for us. Bring him back. He's a little bit older. I think he's 29, 30 years old. Let me go ahead and check that. But he can still play at a solid level for you for a few years. Let me see. He is 30 years old. So, he can still play at a solid level for you for 2 years. So maybe you bring him back for 2 years. Left guard, I would keep Eric Flowers there. He's going to be a little more expensive next year, but that's fine. Cap's going up. Chase Roulier at center, Wes Schweitzer at right guard, and Sam Cosmi at right tackle. No, there is zero reason to bring back Brandon Sheriff next year. I don't care what anyone tells me. He's a great locker room guy. He's great for the culture. He's a great player. That can all be true. But at the end of the day, there is zero reason to pay Brandon Sheriff 17 mil a year when you can pay Wes Schweitzer 3-ish mil a year for a guy who is, he's not as good as Brandon Sheriff, but it's not like he's that much worse. He's not that much worse. He's versatile. He can play left guard, center, right guard, and he's not injury prone. He's not injury prone. Brandon Sheriff, he's good to miss 3, 4+ games every single year. You can book it every single year. So I just think bring back those guys, and I would give Wes Schweitzer an extension this offseason. Pay him while you can. He's not. I don't think he's too young, but he's still growing as a player because he never got that much playing time. Let's see how old he is. He is okay. He's 28 years old, so I would sign him to a 2, 3 year extension. Pay him like 6, 7 mil a year. You don't want to pay guards too much, but he's been playing at a pretty high level for us. Very versatile, and he seems like a cool guy as well. So you can get him for a fraction of the price you get for Sheriff, for very similar production, a healthier player, and a guy that has versatility. So that's just me. Roger said he agrees with me. Let me know if anyone here wants to pay Sheriff. Does anyone here want to pay Sheriff? Let me know there because I just don't. I don't think that we should at all. Let's see. Johnny says if Gibson didn't fumble and then get benched, he would have for sure, hit his career high of yards in a game. That boy's yeah. I mean, he looked good in that game. Fumble, unfortunate, really, really unfortunate. But he looked good. I don't know if he would have surpassed that total against the Cowboys. I can't remember. He had like 124 yards, 3 touchdowns. Maybe he would have, but he looked good. He looked good. I want him to get 15 to 21, 22 carries every week. as long as even against these dominant run defenses, as long as it's working, keep doing it. And even if it's not working, don't go away from it super early. There's no reason to go like at least give it a couple plus 2, 3 plus possessions. Give it some time before you go away from the run game. And that's been working. I think we found our identity. Our offensive line, man, looks super good in the run game. And Gibson has looked good as well. He looks the healthiest he has looked all season. I mean, this team is trending in the right direction, guys. This team is trending in the right direction as long as we start getting healthier, which I think we will with Cosme maybe coming back, Curtis Samuel, Logan Thomas, maybe Ricky Seals Jones, Montez Sweat. I really think we can possibly make a push to maybe make the playoffs. If we can't, it is what it is. But I think we're gonna finish off this year strong. Yeah, pay West about 4.5. I think maybe even more than that. We might even pay West a little bit more because he has been playing at a high level. I think maybe more than that. And I mean, I don't even think we need to get another guard because Eric Flowers is looking good for us. And I mean, yeah, I guess you could. I think. Sorry, Sadiq Charles is a more of a guard than a tackle. He's versatile, and he can be your backup guard if you do need someone. And that's what I would do. But I'm liking this offensive line. Like, I don't see any going into this offseason, I don't see any holes in this offensive line. And I want you guys to go ahead in the comments. What price would you be okay with bringing back Brandon Sheriff? Because, there were reports out that, we paid him, we offered him to be one of the most, the highest paid guard in NFL history last offseason, and he didn't accept, or his agent didn't accept, he didn't accept. So I mean, if he's saying that was like 16, 17 plus million at the time, I'm not paying him nowhere near that. I think, and he obviously wouldn't take it, but I would pay him like, I don't know, 12 and a half, 13 mil. I got Nati here from DMV Sports, so let me bring him in. Nati, I know you had some conflicts with, you had your stream going on. I'm gonna go, ahead, have to watch it after,
Yep.
the show, but appreciate you coming through, man.
I'm doing well, man. We just got a interview after some like tech difficulties and Swaggy having to do stuff. We got Chris Baker on and we got to interview him, so it was really cool getting to interview one of my favorite players growing up. So yeah, that was a good time and yeah, doing well. How are you?
Pretty solid. Feeling good after 2 wins in a row. So I mean, we're kind of all over the place right here, but right now we're kind of talking about Brandon Sheriff. I think most fans are in agreement here. Like, we don't need him back because, if you look at the offensive line right now, you bring back Charles Leno. You don't need to, give him a big deal, but as long as he plays like he has right now, bring him back. He's 30 years old. Bring him back, 1 more year, 2 more years. Hold down that left side. Eric Flowers looks good on the at left guard. Chase Roulier is still one of the better centers in the NFL. Hopefully he comes back. Wes Schweitzer, like, he is a solid starter, and he can play left guard, center, and right guard, and he doesn't get injured. And then Sam Cosmi at right tackle. Brandon Sheriff, yes, he's probably our best lineman, but he's going to play 10, 11, 12 games for you, and he's asking to get paid. Like, we offered him to be the highest paid guard in NFL history, and he turned that down. So, I mean, there's no reason to pay him that much money.
Yeah, I would agree with you. 18, 19 million. That's a hard no for me. I would pay him 14, 15 if he was down, but he's definitely not going to be down after having this whole franchise tag scuffle the last couple of years. But no, I've been saying this to Corey from On the Warpath for a long time now. Our offensive line, like obviously, it's good even without Brandon Sheriff. For our run game and our pass protection is just so much better when Brandon Sheriff is in the lineup, especially our run game. Like every single time he's in the lineup, we start to open like the biggest holes, and our running backs have, the most space to really carve up opposing defenses and stuff. I don't know if you've noticed that, but like I think he's really important But I agree with you. His injury history leads us to think that like he just cannot stay healthy for a full season. If you're paying 18, $19 million for an offensive guard, right? Not even a tackle, offensive guard,
Yeah.
that's just not worth it. I agree with you there.
It's not a position that you want to be paying that much money, especially when you have a guy behind him. Obviously, not as good as him, but he's a
Yeah.
good, he's a solid starter, versatile, and doesn't get hurt. So that's what I would do and use that money to pay Terry because I think I much rather have Terry back than Brandon Sheriff. So, and it might be tight, paying Terry than the defensive lineman. So if you can, save 8, 9, 10, $12 million with
Yeah.
this Brandon Sheriff deal, instead of signing him, keeping Wes Schweitzer, maybe extending him, that would go a long ways in signing some of these guys back.
But Pedro, I'm going to push back on that. If we do release Landon Collins, like a lot of us anticipated going into the season, although he has played a little bit better the last couple of weeks, if we do release him, are we really going to be in a like financial mess?
We're not
Because
no
like I go ahead.
yeah, I mean, I see what you're saying. We're gonna have good, like a lot of cap room, but we're still gonna have like, if you think about it, like so many players in the next few years that we're gonna have to resign.
Yeah.
That like, it's just like you want to have that flexibility, and if you want to even bring in a veteran quarterback, like these quarterbacks have like their cap
Well,
hits are huge. So if you want to
but
bring them in,
if we don't resign Ryan Fitzpatrick, that's another $10 million off the cap, right? If we go with Taylor Heineke, maybe a rookie quarterback. Yeah. But I mean, I get that point. I just think that Brandon Sheriff, if we sign him to a short-term deal, right? Maybe if we give him his money, but maybe over like the course of 2 or 3 years, maybe that would be better, and maybe give him more money up front and then less money maybe in the second or third year of his contract. Maybe we could do that, but yeah, I agree with you. 18 million for a guard who can't stay healthy. That's
yeah.
problematic.
All right, now on to the draft class. What I talked about this earlier. I'll go first because I already said it just to give you my players, but most disappointing, most underwhelming player, and the most pleasant surprise. So my most underwhelming player, De'Ami Brown. You look at the stats: 8 catches, 81 yards, 48% of the snaps. And then Dax Milne, 7 catches, 71 yards, 23% of the snaps. He just hasn't been good, and hopefully it changes. But kind of looking like not. I'm not comparing him to him as a player to AGG at all, but I'm saying like the season. Like
Yeah.
I feel like it's kind of a lost season just because you look at it. He's at best gonna be the sixth receiver on this depth chart if Curtis Samuel comes back, because Terry's over him, DeAndre Carter's over him, Curtis Samuel, if he comes back, will be over him. I think Adam Humphries is over him. And then, the way Dax Milne is playing, he's over him. And then you could even argue, I think they're on the same level, but Cam Sims as well. Like he's not clearly over anyone on the depth chart. So there's no reason to believe that he's going to get the opportunities in the second half of the season to turn it around. I'm not like I said, not comparing him to AGG as the player, but just the season overall. I think it's kind of a lost season. And then in terms of my most pleasant surprise, I would go. I mean, I thought Sam Cosmi would be solid, but he's been really good for us. He's nasty in the run game and solid in pass protection. Unfortunate with the injuries, but those are my two right there.
Yeah. I mean, having different picks might be interesting, might be more interesting, but I'm definitely going to agree with you on both. I think the most disappointing by far is De'Ami Brown. I mean, you know me, I'm more of a when it comes to expectations for players on this team, I like to keep them low. But even going to the season, I thought De'Ami Brown was going to get you 600, 650 yards as that wide receiver 3 right behind Terry and behind Curtis Samuel, who I know he's not a draft pick, but I think is the most disappointing player overall, of course. But yeah, to see him like not put up any stats and stuff, I think we should have looked more into the fact that he's supposed to be a speed guy for us, but he ran a 4.42. I think not enough people, even myself, talked about that in the offseason process, right? Like I think teams are catching up, and I think De'Ami Brown. But I do think though, if he stays more healthy over the next couple of years, I think he will get better. Unlike AGG, he has the route running and he has at least some speed. So I think he has those two things going for him. But I definitely agree with you. For this season, he definitely is the biggest disappointment in that draft class. And the biggest surprise, of course, is Sam Cosmi. I think, a lot of us had some expectations for him, but a lot of us knew going into the season that, or thought he was going to be a project, right? Like that was
Yeah.
the word that was thrown around. Like he wasn't ready necessarily. He was going to be a great tackle, maybe down the line, but like right now he needs some seasoning. But it only took like a couple preseason games and really a training camp of him getting pushed around by Chase Young and Montez Sweat for him to really be a bona fide right tackle in this league. And I'm glad he's here in DC.
Yeah, definitely. And some other guys I've liked this draft class. Dax Milne's, I think he's gonna be not a star, of course, but he's gonna
Yeah.
be a guy that can get you hopefully 400 to 600 yards once he's like in his prime. Like next year, maybe he'll get you 300, 400 yards, and I think he can do that for a solid, decent period of time. Like maybe his peak, Adam Humphries, his best years, like something like that. He's not, never gonna be great for you. But he can be solid. I like what I've seen from him. That fumble is unfortunate, but like really, like it's like he had two hands the ball. Like the most you could expect, the only way he was going to avoid that is go down. Like that was just a perfect hit from Levante David, and Dax Milne is just tiny, but he's looked solid for us. I think I don't think the season will, take another turn for the worse.
Hmm.
But if it does, then like if we, lose two or three in a row, then maybe you start subbing him in more for Adam Humphries, start the development a little bit earlier. But if not, then just keep Adam Humphries in and, De'Ami Brown kind of split snaps like they're doing. Because, I've been saying it for a while. Adam Humphries hasn't been amazing for us, but every week he has a big catch. Like every week, it's like one big catch, like a third down conversion, or just a big catch. I mean, last week he had a third down conversion
Yeah.
early in the game, and which helped us score a touchdown. And then on the 3rd and 21, he had an 18-yard catch.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree. He always comes up with the clutch catches. Even in the preseason, I think it was against the Patriots, right? Where it was like a third down.
Yeah,
Ryan Fitzpatrick was struggling, but he was there for him and he caught it, and it turned out into a first down conversion. So I definitely agree with you. He just seems to make those clutch passes, which will come in handy as the season, right, goes along when we'll have those divisional games coming up.
yeah. So now moving on to kind of like the second half of the season, how are you feeling about the team? You think we have a chance to make the playoffs? I know it's early and it's like we won 2 games in a row, which, is great, but this year it's been crazy. Like we've seen these, runs by teams and they go ahead and lose their next two to not even great teams. Like it's been a crazy year. So how are you feeling about the second half of the year, the next, 7 games?
Yeah, I think if we beat the Seattle Seahawks, I know they're down and out. I know they're 3-7. They haven't looked good at all. Russell Wilson hasn't looked good since he's come back from injury. I get all that, but it always seems to be the case that our defense, our entire team, just lets us down when we're playing against some of the better quarterbacks in this league, right? I know Tom Brady that was a different story, but usually it's the case. So if we beat Russell Wilson in Seattle on Monday Night Football, no less, right after the 2 big wins that we just had, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers win that nobody thought we were going to get, and then the Carolina Panthers win, which was like huge for Ron Rivera, especially. I think if we continue this trend and we beat the Seattle Seahawks on Monday night, we can talk playoffs for real for this team. I think that's the next test. But outside of the Seattle Seahawks game, I mean, we have the Raiders who look much more beatable than they did at the beginning of the season. We have the Cowboys twice, which, going to the season, we thought at worst we would split with the Cowboys, but now I don't know. The
A
Cowboys are pretty
split
good.
a
Yeah.
split would be nice with the Eagles and the Cowboys if we can get 2 wins out of those games.
Yeah. Yeah. We have to beat the Giants. I mean, especially after what happened last night and what's happened to the Giants, even before yesterday, like we got to beat the Giants. But I definitely think if we beat the Seahawks, we could talk playoffs. And I mean, already right now we're in the hunt.
I think we're
Technically,
1 game out. Yeah.
yeah, we're only a game back. But I think more so, it's less so like a numbers game if we beat the Seahawks, and more so like
Yeah.
just the perception of this team and like where we think this team could go, right, with the talent that they have and stuff. And also I think Curtis Samuel and Logan Thomas potentially being back would
Maybe
really,
Montez Sweat in a couple weeks too.
yeah,
And yeah, so make sure you guys go ahead and sub up to DMV Sports Zone. They just had a great interview with Chris Baker. They got a bunch of other great interviews, live streams, a bunch of people there. Great stuff. I put the link in the chat, and I'll go after the stream. Go ahead and put it in the description as well. Make sure you guys go ahead and sub up. And yeah, I think one thing that's just like now that we're talking about the playoffs, it's like, man, those games that we lost earlier, like we did get lucky, I feel like, with the Giants game and even the Falcons game. But then you look at the Saints game, like, man, the Hail Mary, Landon Collins blowing that 71-yard, play. Even the Chargers game, it's not one of the most winnable games, but Gibson, that fumble, and the Broncos game, like, Chris blew it. Like, if we have, yeah, he did. And if we had a competent kicker, maybe we win that game. And like, it's just, man, like those games, like even one game at this point, if we would have won that Broncos game, we're in the playoffs, or I think, right, because we would be above the Panthers, or at least we would be right
6-5,
there.
yeah.
And it's just like,
Or
man,
yeah, 5.
like those games early on in the season, we talked about it earlier in the stream, but like you got to start out better than they did this year. They started out bad last year, and same thing this year. Like, I love being a second half team because you rather be a second half team than a first half team, especially if you're a playoff team, because you want to go end the season off hot. But at the same time, it's hard to start off as bad as they did and then make the playoffs.
Yeah. I mean, no, I agree with you with the first half, second half point. 2018, we were a first half team. We started off 6-3, and then obviously Alex Smith's injury happened, right? And that's what led us to completely wet the bed in the second half of the season. But no, I definitely agree with you. Second half team is nice, but I also agree. Starting out slow is so frustrating, man. Like, to have to like climb your way back, right? Last year we got lucky because 7-9 ended us being a playoff team, right? That usually does not happen. But this year, like, we have a tough division. The Cowboys are, I hate to say it, but are really good. The Giants are not good still, but the Eagles also got better in the offseason. So I definitely think that we need to start off better, at least for the rest of Ron Rivera's tenure here in DC.
Sorry, I was loud. But yeah, I agree with you. Agree with Luck as well. Got to, be loud in that stadium. So way off topic, but I've kind of been, and I don't know about you. I kind of feel like I know where you're on this, but like, I feel like Scott Turner was getting way too much hate early on in the season. Like, yes, of every coordinator, unless they're perfect, which there aren't any, they're going to have their mistakes. Why did you do this? Why did you do that? But the hate that Scott Turner was getting was just like, I could tell, like, unless you actually had reasonable like takes, like some people, like, they watch the film, but they're like, man, I want us to have an identity. I want us to run the ball more. But like some people just question him, and it's like he can't hand the ball to the receiver. Like, there were times where receivers wide open in the end zone, Heineke takes a sack. Heineke doesn't throw it. There's, in that Bills game, we probably could have scored 3-4 touchdowns if Heineke just throws it on the streak route, just throws it up to McLaurin, De'Ami Brown, Gibson. Like, the plays are there to be made in a lot of these games, and they just weren't being made. The red zone execution, again, part of that is on Turner, but I mean, like, is it on Turner that Heineke in the Packers game goes down at the 1 inch line? Is it his fault that McLaurin's been amazing this year, but that he drops that touchdown right there? Is it his fault that Gibson fumbles in the red zone last week? Like, I think Scott Turner and also look what he's working with. Like, we're getting better right now health wise, but like we probably at one point had like 7 starters out or in, like, hurt. Gibson's been hurt a bunch. Terry was hurt for a few weeks. We don't have Fitzpatrick was our starter. I mean, Heineke's been solid, but like he's been out. Logan Thomas, Ricky Seals Jones, Sam Cosme, Brandon Sheriff, Cornelius Lucas was out. Chase Roulier was out. I mean, just Curtis Samuel. I mean, everyone's been out, and we're still moving the ball down the field. So, I mean, I like Scott Turner. I don't think he's perfect, but I mean, he's doing what he can do with what he has on the field. How do you feel about Scott Turner?
Yeah, let me put it this way. 2019, Kevin O'Connell was the offensive coordinator. Um,
I
we
yeah, I know what you're
so
saying.
Logan Thomas went down earlier this season, right? Is our receiving core since Logan Thomas went down that much better than it was in 2019 when we were 3-13 with Dwayne Haskins at the helm? I don't think
No.
so, right? Like with Curtis Samuel being out, Logan Thomas being out. I mean, it's been
It's
Terry.
Terry. It's the Terry
Yeah,
show and then DeAndre Carter on the side.
I think the only improvement from this receiving core has come from Terry in the last 2 years, really. But I mean, and he was the poster boy. Kevin O'Connell was the guy that everybody, all the fans wanted to keep and stuff. But I agree with you. I think Scott Turner does get some unnecessary flack. I do think he runs a little bit too much gadget plays for my liking, especially when he calls plays that are run way behind the line of scrimmage when it's like third down, and we need to get a first down. But I think he's an above average offensive coordinator. I don't think he should get fired. I think he's been solid to start the season. And I agree with you. The cast of characters on this offense haven't been too great, right? Like if we get Curtis Samuel back, if we get Logan Thomas back, I feel like then we can truly evaluate Scott Turner and see whether his offense is really working here in DC or if we need to go in a different direction.
Yeah, and especially once he gets a quarterback too, hopefully a real one. But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, we'll see
Did
what
you?
happens. I mean, you look at Kevin O'Connell
Yeah.
in last year with the Rams. I mean, their offense wasn't that great with Jared Goff. I mean, and then you put in Matthew Stafford, and at least before the last two games, they were looking amazing. And I know obviously a lot of that has to do with Sean McVay, but still, I mean, a lot of these good offensive coordinators have good quarterbacks.
Yeah. And speaking of quarterbacks, I know you probably talked about this before I got on the stream, but what are your thoughts on Heineke? And do you think he's the answer? Because you said quarterback, right? Like we need a real quarterback. So
I don't think he's the answer. I mean, I still haven't I feel like after the Broncos game, I was like, okay. I mean, the whole time I kind of in the back of my mind, I'm like, he's not the guy. Like he's a cool story and he's a guy that I would absolutely he's the perfect backup quarterback for you. Can come in for you in a game, come back for you. And even for a few games, I'm fine with him starting because a lot of the guys love him and he knows the offense and he's he can bring you a spark. But you can tell the limits on his arm sometimes. The last two games have been better, but man, sometimes and he'll read it at an average rate, but once he throws it, the ball is the DB is in front of the receiver because he doesn't have enough zip on the ball. And I haven't noticed that the last two games. So maybe that's, a hat tip to Scott Turner for not really, putting him in those situations. But you just see the, limits on his arm.
yeah.
But he is balling out though, and he is young. But that arm strength and stuff like that. What I mean
29.
when I mean young, I mean he's young in terms of his playing career,
Yeah.
the amount
Yeah.
of games he started. But yeah, I'm still in the boat where I need to see a lot more before I'm like he's the answer. And really, like even if he has a great rest of the year, I'm not going into the season being like he is the guy. Like I still want to get another guy. And if Heineke turns out to be the guy, that's great. You have him and you possibly have another guy. But I absolutely am not going into next season with this quarterback room. Like there is zero reason to do that. Like if you do that, you're
Right.
asking yourself to fired is too early, probably. But if you bring back the same room and you go 3-14, you're gonna get fired, in my opinion. So I mean, you at least at the very minimum, you bring back Heineke, you bring back Kyle Allen, and then you draft someone in the third or second round at the minimum. That's at the bare minimum. But I like Heineke. I like some of the things that he can do, but I'm definitely not in the camp like he's the guy.
Yeah. I think your analysis on Heineke is spot on. I definitely agree with you, and I think I appreciate you saying that because I know some fans just automatically think he's the franchise quarterback after the last two performances and forgot what happened in the previous Eight performances before that, right? When it was really hot and cold. So, some weeks he would play well, and then other weeks we saw the limitations on his arm strength, right? Like how many times have we seen him float the ball high, right? Like throw the ball high on passes. And if you guys don't know, a lot of that has to do with arm strength,
And
right? Like
hospital passes too.
what was that?
Hospital passes too. Like so many times, like putting his receiver in like
Yeah.
a bad situation.
But like I said on Twitter, last week was by far Taylor Heineke's best game in his Washington career, in my opinion. It wasn't just like the stats, right? 3 touchdowns, 206 yards. This man's had zip on the ball. On the ball. I know you probably saw the highlight, Pedro, that was shown all over Twitter the last couple of days, where I mean he had two defensive backs that were like right there, a linebacker and a defensive back that were right there to potentially pick off the ball, but he threw it right between the two defenders in for a Cam Sims touchdown. I remember watching that live. I was like, that's a special throw. And seeing it back on the highlight, I mean, he had zip. He had zip. But the problem is, though, with Taylor Heineke is that he's not consistent. So we need to see more of these kind of performances. Maybe not the elite performance that he had last week, right? I don't think any of us expect that every single week, but maybe more of the performances like the Bucks game, right? Like where he didn't have the best of games. He did float some balls. He did overthrow some guys, but he showed you some flashes of being a legitimate stud at the quarterback position. And I think once we see that consistency, we can talk about him potentially being here long term. I think he should be here long term as a backup. I agree with you as a high end backup. But in terms of franchise quarterback, we need to see how the rest of the season plays out before we determine that, guys. Like we can't just say after 2 games, oh, this guy is the answer, which I keep saying all over Facebook. I don't know if you're on there, but all over the Facebook, the Redskins Washington football team chats. So yeah, just want to put that out there.
Yeah, and one thing like Heineke's arm strength, it just isn't going to get much. It's hard to get better at this point. But one thing that can get better that I've been saying for a long time now, he holds on to the ball. Like he is great at avoiding pressure, getting out of the pocket, and avoiding the first guy or two. Like he's great at that. Take that, throw it away. Don't get hit or don't get sacked. Like
He's gotten a little bit better at that,
yeah,
though.
he's gotten a little bit better at that, but like I couldn't watch the last quarter because I had something going on.
Mm-hmm.
But at least I know the first sack, like that was on him. He held the ball too long, and he even said the game before that he got sacked 5 times. He said 4 of those were on him holding the ball too long, and like he is either getting hit or getting sacked, and you don't want that to happen. Throw it away a little bit earlier, and then also I think he needs to run a little bit more. Like sometimes I didn't see it much in the Panthers game, but in the Bucks game, there were times where he could have ran, gotten out of the pocket and start running a little bit earlier and getting some easy yards. That's something that I think he can work on. Like those are things he can definitely get better on, and that's going to help more the offense as a whole than really him. But that's just what the elite quarterbacks do. Like Tom Brady, he sees something he doesn't like, throw it away right away, doesn't get touched.
Yeah, I don't know if it was that sack in the fourth quarter. I think it might have been the one where he just twisted around and like he was. I mean, like we need to see less of that, right? Not more of that. So hopefully he doesn't hold the ball too long. But I think holding the ball too long has been a problem with our quarterbacks really since Alex Smith, right? Like Dwayne Haskins did the same thing, Taylor Heineke. But I agree with you. Taylor Heineke is 28, 29 years old. I know he has relatively little experience with game experience, but I mean he should know better, and hopefully he'll get better as the season goes on.
But the great thing is that thing is very correctable. Like that's just a mentality thing. Like throw it away. Like it's something you can like if you can set your mind on it, you can easily do it. So that is something I'm encouraged about. And who knows? The book for me is not closed on him possibly being a starting level guy, like not a low end guy, because I think he could possibly be like a low end starter, like bottom of but you don't want that. Like I don't want a low end starter because you're not winning with a low end starter. That's the thing. So I think he can be better than that, but at this point, I'm not there yet. I am not there yet. But yeah, let's move on to like a couple more questions, and we'll end it. Give me your. I think this is pretty easy. I'll let you go on it, but offensive MVP, defensive MVP throughout the first. I think it's a very easy question, especially for you. But I think I know what you're gonna say. But go ahead.
Oh yeah, I don't know why. When I thought of defensive MVP, this was not the first guy that came up in my mind, but this is obviously the guy. Offensive MVP. I mean, it's the guy that I have on my jersey, bro. The guy that the first jersey I bought with my own money, or not, I shouldn't say own money. First jersey I bought since 2013, which was a Ryan Kerrigan jersey, and that was a Terry McLaurin jersey last year. Terry McLaurin is a stud. He's a top 10 receiver in this league. I think he's definitely by far the offensive MVP this season. Antonio Gibson has been underwhelming. Defensive MVP, you know who I'm going with, Pedro. My guy John Allen, the guy that everybody thought was the guy that out of the defensive line group should have been straight. Well, not everybody. A lot of people thought should have been the odd man out.
Me
Right?
included.
Should have
Like
been
I
the odd.
wanted to keep him, but he was the odd man out for me. I was wrong. I gotta admit that.
I was on the Matt Ioannidis or Deron Payne trade if we're going to trade one of those offensive or defensive linemen. Because Jonathan Allen was special last year too. A lot of people like undervalued his season because he only had 1.5 sacks. But if you watch the highlights, like he did a lot of the same things he's doing this year. Last year, he just did not get the sack. So, and luckily we re-signed him long term last offseason, and not this offseason, where he probably would have commanded 21, 22,
20, probably 23-ish.
Yeah, like Leonard Williams type money, bro. Speaking of, how's Leonard Williams doing? Didn't we talk about him being the Giants paying him too much money in the offseason?
Yeah.
Kenny Galladay too. Sorry,
yeah,
that's just
Adoree Jackson all right, but like still. Yeah, I think you're spot on. Terry McLaurin. I mean, I don't have to explain that all. He's top. I think once Curtis Samuel comes back, like he's going to be even better. I mean, it's small sample size, but you look at the Falcons game. That's probably Terry's best game of the year. Did he have? Was that the Didn't he have a 2-touchdown game? Was that was it? 125 yards, 2 touchdowns, best game of the year with Curtis Samuel playing 25 snaps. So I don't think it's a coincidence. So let's see what he can do with Curtis Samuel again. And he's just been just amazing. The only thing that concerns me is like a little tiny bit injury prone, like just a little bit, like not very injury prone, of course, but missed 2 games rookie year last year, missed the game, but his stats were like deflated because he was hurt for like 5 weeks playing with an ankle sprain. So like really, I'm not even saying he missed 1 game. He missed more than that last year. He just fought through it, but his production was not the same. And then he was hurt earlier this year. So that's the only thing I'm concerned about with Terry. I'm still paying him whatever he wants. But yeah. And then Jonathan Allen, I was definitely wrong about him. I mean, I still thought he was great, but like I don't know. I don't know. I thought I liked Deron Payne a little bit better, but I was definitely wrong. I just gotta say I'm wrong on that one.
Bro, you're not the only one, bro.
Yeah,
like a lot of people.
I feel like a lot of people wanted to keep some people even I was definitely wanted to keep Allen over Ioannidis instead of some people wanted Ioannidis over Allen. But Allen by far best defender this year. He's great in the run game. He's doing the underrated things like that tackle on that screenplay for Christian McCaffrey. That was a great play. Good culture guy, just perfect. Paid him. We probably saved like 25 mil total on the contract by getting him this year. What did we pay? 17 mil, 18 mil. Solid.
We usually don't do that with contracts. We usually wait 1 year too long or 1 year too late in order to re-sign guys. So
yeah, there's no reason to not like pay guys early, especially if you want to re-sign them the next year. Like, why are you not re-signing them the year before? That's why we got to re-sign Terry this year. But yeah, Jonathan Allen's been great. I mean, I think the other guy that I would say maybe Cameron Curl would be the second guy. But like there haven't been any standout guys besides those two. Deron Payne has been solid for us. He's been solid. And yeah, I mean, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say this might. I don't know if it's a hot take, but I think this is just a projection. I think in the second half of the season, William Jackson is gonna be amazing. That's my projection. I think not amazing, but like legitimate, like contract worthy second half of the season. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, if he does, I think this defense is gonna take it to that next level. I think they're doing really well right now, but they're going to take it to hopefully to that elite level where they were, against even those bad quarterbacks, they were still playing really good football last year. So I think they can, bring it back to that. And so now we're at that point. We paid Allen, and this will be the last question. So we got six other guys there that are six total guys, including Allen. You got Allen, Payne, Settle, Ioannidis, Sweat, and Chase Young. So you paid Allen. I'll go first on this. So who else are you paying? I mean, it's hard not to pay Chase, and I think he will bounce back. Like the way he is, I think he's gonna bounce back this next year. Hopefully, he's good for the start of the season. I just really wanted. Go ahead.
I'm still not projecting high sacks though. He just does not seem like a high sacks guy to me. That's just me.
Yeah, and it's just I think that you see him and Montez Sweat out there, and they're such athletic freaks, and they're just relying on their athleticism. Like they're not they don't have pass rush moves, and that's not obviously you want them to have that, but that's on Sam Mills. Like Sam Mills, you got to be able to develop that. So that's why I wanted to see Chase Young in that second half of the season, because if he wasn't improving, I really wanted us to bring in another defensive line coach this year. And I think regardless, we probably should, because people are going to be like, oh, Jonathan Allen had a great year. Well, he didn't. I guarantee you, he didn't learn these new pass rush moves from Sam Mills. He had these in his bag. And I would potentially move on from him, but I'm still gonna pay Chase because I think he's that dude. Paying John, we already paid Jonathan Allen. After that, honestly, I'm having a feeling they might not pay Sweat on the edge. Even though I think he was probably our second best defensive lineman this year, I think they might not, and this is just prediction, not to say what I would do, but I think they might pay Allen, Payne, and then Chase, and then keep one of the other, just not bring back Sweat, because I think it's more of a money thing, because if you pay the edge rushers what they're getting paid, if Chase Young turns it around, that's in the 30 mil. Joey Bosa got paid 28. TJ Watt, I don't know, he got it's gonna be a lot of money, and to pay both of those guys. What?
You think he's gonna get to that point where he's gonna command 20? I know we talked about that last offseason because his rookie year was really good and stuff. Even with the sack numbers not being there. But I don't know. I don't know if he'll get to that point where he's commanding $27-28 million a year, like we talked about in the offseason. I don't know, man. I'm pessimistic on Chase Young. I'm just gonna throw that out there. I agree with you. He tries to win off his athleticism, and if he doesn't learn some more pass rush moves or hone in on his pass rush moves quickly, then I don't know.
I think here's the thing though. He's still good in the run game, and obviously you're not paying him to do that, but even Jadeveon Clowney, who never had, a lot of people are saying, oh, he's Jadeveon Clowney. I'm pretty sure Jadeveon Clowney got paid a ton of money. He got a big contract. So I think Chase Young, honestly, he's gonna get paid $30 million, because the way, and not compared to what TJ Watt and Joey Bosa are making now, but in 3 years when his contract comes up, that's what the money is going to be, even for guys that are under Joey Bosa, which is a lot of money for an edge rusher, but that's what it is right now. TJ Watt got, what did he get? Almost $30 million. I don't think Chase Young is going to get there, but it's insane. And that's right now when the cap is the lowest it's been in a while. It's going to go up even more. So I think it's going to be tough to pay both edge rushers. And the thing is, you're saying you're pessimistic on Chase Young. If you're pessimistic on Chase Young, then you probably don't want to re-sign him, or maybe you don't want to re-sign.
I mean, I do want to re-sign him. I just don't think. I think the difference between my take and your take here is that I don't think he's going to get to the point where he's commanding $29-30 million on the open market. I think eventually we'll be able to sign him for somewhere between 25 and 27, which I mean, it's still a lot of money, but I'm
Like,
like,
where would you like ranked? Like, where would that be ranked? That's my question because I'm saying 30 because of the cap, not because of like. So, like, where would you have him ranked in that? Like, if he's getting paid 25, like, where is he? Like, what highest paid guy? Like,
um, I would think maybe 6 to 10, maybe.
because I think in
Yeah.
3 years, like, I think it's gonna explode. So that's more why I'm saying 30 mil. Like that. Like that's why I'm
Mhm.
more saying because I think it's going to go up a ton and it's going to be a norm for like really good pass rushers to get over 20 mil.
No, I think again, I think he's gonna get over 20 mil. I just don't think he's gonna get to that 30 mil like threshold because I think that 30 mil threshold will be reserved for guys like Nick Bosa. Like I think Nick Bosa off that injury. I mean, who knows? Chase Young could be the same next year, right? Like off a season-ending injury, just turns things around. But I think Nick Bosa showed a lot more flashes of being a not just great pass rusher, but like a top 3 pass rusher in this league in his rookie season than Chase Young showed. So I think 30 mil, Nick Bosa, those kind of guys, and then Chase Young will be in like that 27, 28 mil range. Maybe a slight tick less, but like somewhere around that. So he's still
Okay.
gonna get paid a lot of
Yeah,
money.
yeah.
Like
I
he's still
feel you
gonna
on that. I think where we like kind of like disagree, like not disagree, but like we were thinking differently on the money, but I
yeah,
think same on like where he would be ranked, I think for me. So, yeah, so out of those guys, who are you paying? Are you paying, we already paid Allen, so are you going to pay? I think it's like kind of like you just can't not pay Chase because if you
yeah.
like, like
Second overall pick.
second overall pick,
Yeah.
like he's gonna be hungry against you. He's gonna be like, "Oh, I'm signing with the Cowboys. I'm gonna go
Yeah.
up against these guys two times a year."
And then put up like 15 stacks. So
Yeah,
yeah. Yeah. That's a tough question, especially with the injuries that we have now, and our defensive line, our whole defense overall is like just starting to click and stuff, right? Over these last 3 games, so it's really hard to say. I will say this: obviously, Deron Payne had that big sack at the end, right, along with James Smith Williams, but I think he gets a little bit too much love from like fans. Like I think fans think that it's almost an automatic. Like I'm not saying you do, Pedro, but a lot of fans out there think it's an automatic that we're gonna re-sign him to a big money contract and like not let him walk and stuff. But I think there's definitely gonna be some talks behind the scenes. But I would say Sweat does have to get re-signed because he was our second best defensive lineman last year too. Like I came into the offseason thinking that like behind Jonathan Allen, not behind Chase Young, behind Jonathan Allen. Like it was Jonathan Allen, Montez Sweat, Chase Young for me last season, and this season Jonathan Allen, Montez Sweat. So I think because of that, you're probably gonna have to re-sign Montez Sweat. Um, Matt Ioannidis, he's not on a big money contract. I think he's gonna leave after. Is this his third year or second year?
I think he has one more year after this year.
Yeah, I think he's gonna leave after next year. He hasn't really shown too much this year, and I've been wrong on him too. I thought he was gonna show more than he has this season. So, but he hasn't. I think you got to resign though, Montez Sweat and Chase Young. Work your way around the salary cap like the Saints are doing with Taysom Hill, and resign Deron Payne. But priorities for me, Sweat. For me, it's Sweat, Young, Duran, but I think for the organization, it's gonna be Chase, Sweat, Duran. I think
I would
that's a
go. I just don't know if you can pay both Chase and Montez with like I said with how the edge rushing salary is like market is. I don't know if you can pay both of them. I don't know how you can pay both of them, but I do agree with Roger. I think that you should not necessarily with the player, could be the player, but I think you should once you figure out what your plan is, who you are narrowing down to pay for you should try to get assets back. Make sure you choose the right guy because the 49ers, like Eric Armstead is great.
yeah,
Not great. He's good, but
yeah,
DeForest Buckner is so much better. They picked the wrong guy. They made the right move. They couldn't pay DeForest Buckner. They got a first round pick for him. So they made the right move, just not the right player. If they would have traded Eric Armstead for like a second round pick and paid DeForest Buckner, that would have been a great move. So if we can do that with whoever we're doing, or with whoever we decide not to keep, I would do that.
Yeah.
Rogers says also keep Settle. I think
I
there's
think
not a chance we keep Settle
yeah.
because like you have to think in Settle's shoes. Like why would he re-sign here when he's the fourth interior defensive lineman? Like he wants to get paid. And
Other
while
than this being his hometown team, that's pretty much
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, like that's the only reason because Washington isn't gonna have the incentive to pay him unless, like you say, if they do trade Payne, then that's a little bit different. If they trade Payne, then maybe they can keep Settle. But I think Settle is just it's hard to keep him. It's hard to keep him because he's gonna get a solid deal from another team,
Yeah.
and you can get a comp pick for that too. So
Oh, also, yeah, DA Money Group. So I'm not saying Deron Payne isn't great. I'm just saying like we might need to reconsider the idea that it's an automatic that we're going to re-sign him, or it's like we're either going to re-sign him or trade him, right? Like maybe there is that potential that we just let him go, right? Like just because of the salary cap situation, and Deron Payne again, he's great, but there's levels to greatness, and Jonathan Allen is, I think, not just one but two levels greater.
yeah. Appreciate everyone for coming through. Andreas, VA Money, Steven, Roger Smith, Brian Harding. Appreciate everyone for coming through. And Nati, appreciate you coming through as well. Make sure everyone go ahead and check out DMV Sports Zone. Like I said, they did an interview with Chris Baker. So that I'm gonna go ahead and watch that later. Should be a good one. And anything you have to plug?
You see that point that's a legitimate point about maybe taking a pay cut because of the situation. But I think we need to start winning, winning some games for that to happen. Things to plug. Yeah. So just had a special live interview with Chris Baker. So guys, go make sure to check that out. Please make sure to follow or subscribe to our YouTube page, DMV Sports Zone, and
Links in. I'm gonna put the link in the chat right now.
appreciate that, Pedro. As always, and Twitter page at DME Sports Zone and Instagram page all lowercase DME Sports Zone. And thank you so much, Pedro, for having me on. It's
Yep.
always a blast talking to you.
Yeah, it was fun to, have you on, have this, discussion. And yeah, I'm excited, the next half of the season, let's hope we can string together some wins, maybe make a late playoff push. And if you want to, the dream of getting Aaron Rodgers, any of those guys, like the only miracle chance we have of any of those three coming here is if we win 8+ games this year, because if we win 6 games, they're not coming. They're not coming here. So if we win 9 games, they can look at us like, maybe if I come here, like Deshaun Watson, who's super desperate to get traded, if he gets cleared, maybe that happens. But yeah.
And Pedro, knowing you, you might make some more videos on this, but I think the possibility of Russell Wilson coming here, I think that's like number one, like
Yeah,
above all the other
I've
guys.
been saying that they're
Yeah.
3-7 right now. We can get them to 3-8, and I don't know. I mean, they could finish off the season 5-6 wins, and
And don't
I mean,
forget
yeah,
he's from Virginia. He's
yeah,
from or he had his draft party at DC, like in DC. So he has
yeah.
the connection.
That is the dream right there, because like honestly, he's the perfect medium in my opinion between Watson and Rodgers. Really good age, really good leader, no issues whatsoever. Before this year, never missed a game. Like he's the perfect guy to get. So I mean, it's a long shot, but the only chance they have is if they finish off
Win.
strong. Again, man, appreciate you for coming through, and peace, guys.